Morning, traders. Hope you guys are all having a great morning so far. Sorry for the late upload. I just got back from the gym and I'm just looking at the markets right now. I'm just going to be going over what trades I'm watching for today, see if there's any good gap fill trades in the early morning. If you guys appreciate this content, please like, subscribe, comments, always greatly appreciated, but let's get into it. So Apple, the big levels I'm going to be watching on Apple today, as I said in yesterday's video, let's go over to the daily chart. If we can hold 189.78, then you can get a push to 191.70. If you break down 189.78, I'd expect to move back down to 187.47. No really big gap fill trade in effect for Apple this morning because we're so close to that 189.78 level. On Amazon, let's see what we're doing on Amazon this morning. So Amazon, gap fill trade is in effect. So I'd watch at 147.73 gap fill. If we come up to that level around 9:30ish, then it won't be in effect. It has to be a pretty decent gap. But if we open somewhere around this 147 level, then I would definitely watch that gap fill in the early morning. On Google, let's see what we got on Google. So I'm not really a big fan of this gap fill. I mean, it's such a small gap. Let's see, what is it? 36-cent gap. So a gap fill trade is not in effect for Google. Let's see in terms of daily levels. So I'd watch that gap at 132. I think in the next coming weeks, that'll be a critical level to watch. Let's see here. So I'd watch that 135 level. I'd watch at 137.42. Let's see how it's going pre-market. So yeah, I think that 135 level, if we break that down, you're going to get a big move down to 133.69. It's definitely shaping up to move down that way. Meta, so the gap fill trade is in effect for Meta. If we end up opening somewhere around this level right here of 332.64 to, I would say, 333, then I'll watch that gap fill. But if we end up rallying pre-market into the market open to, let's just say, 334, I'm going to be taking off that 334.70. It would be no longer a big gap fill. But what I really want to emphasize is do not take those gap fills early in the morning. I mean, you can, but I mean, it's hard to tell the difference between the massive amount of buyers and sellers versus the pre-market. I mean, the early morning volatility. So I would wait until at least 10 to 11 o'clock to wait for those gap fills to form up. On Microsoft, let's see here. So I would watch that gap fill on Microsoft. If we continue pushing down, then I would definitely watch the gap fill trade. I would watch 379.79 today. That's definitely going to be a critical level to watch. Now, all I'm going to say is if we end up rallying up and continue to rally up towards this gap fill, then as I've been saying, it would no longer be in effect. So just keep that in mind for Microsoft. But the big levels I'm going to be watching for today is going to be that 379.79. If we close above that, then we could push 381 and 385. If we get another rejection with some decent volume, then I expect to move back down to 371.81 in the next coming days, maybe even 366.78. As we all know, that was the previous all-time high. So that's always going to be a major support level for Microsoft. For NVIDIA, let's see what we're doing pre-market. So pre-market NVIDIA, gap fill trade is not in effect. I'm not going to be watching that. But the levels I'm going to be watching on NVIDIA is going to be this 476.34. If we do not hold that level, then I'm expecting to move down to 470 and 463 in the next coming days. If we end up holding this level and push up, I would expect to move to 490.28 in the next coming days. Now, one or two things could happen. If we end up getting above that 490.28 level and it's get treated as support, then I'm watching move back up to 504.59 and then to all-time highs. But if we end up rejecting this could be a start of a bearish downtrend. So it would just be a lower high to a lower low, lower high, lower low, and so on. So I just keep that in mind for NVIDIA. For the Qs, let's see what we got for trade. So I definitely watch that gap fill. If we end up rallying into 930 and it's a very small gap, then I'll take off 389.17. But if we continue to push down further, then I would definitely expect that to be a critical level. 388.33 is definitely going to be a big level to watch as well. If we end up breaking down that 388.33 level on the Qs, then I would expect to move back down to 383. If we can get a daily close below that, and then below 383, that's when the bears really start to take control. On SPY, what I would watch on SPY is that gap fill trade of 454.48. Let's see what we're doing pre-market. So if we end up, like the other tickers, if we end up rallying up to this level or around it, I would say about a 30-cent difference. If it's within 30 cents, I'm not going to consider it a valid gap trade. But if we continue to push down, then I would definitely expect a nice rejection off of there later in the day. Now, if we break down 453 today, then I expect to move back down to 449. If we hold 453, I'd watch 456, and above 456, watch 459 on Tesla. Let's see if we have a gap fill trade or not. Yeah, we don't. So I'm going to take off the gap fill trade on Tesla. The levels I would watch on Tesla are going to be, I'd watch 232 and 243. Above 243, you can get 254.81, and below 232, you can get 226.42. And then on the trades that I currently have positions in, let's see how we're doing. So McDonald's, I have a position in McDonald's. Doing good. A little bit of a retracement. I would not be surprised if we get a pullback on McDonald's. We've been going absolutely nuts lately. Luckily, I've taken my profits from McDonald's and been putting them into Coca-Cola and Walmart. Coca-Cola, not doing half bad either. I'm not surprised that we got a little bit of a push here. Major resistance zone, as you can see here. Major pivot area. Support turn resistance. So just keep that in mind for Coca-Cola. And then the other ticker that I'm in right now is Walmart. Walmart's doing pretty good. A little bit of selling pressure from yesterday, but I think for the most part, it will be a gradual upward movement. Walmart's a very, very strong retailer, and among the sector, I think they're one of the best personally. But that's what I'm watching today, traders, and go to